Having never been to New York before, I wanted to spend the first part of the week in the city and the latter part of the week in upstate New York. We stayed at the Marriott Essex House on Central Park South, so it made perfect sense to spend the better part of our first day just meandering through Central Park. The vast urban park offers something for just about everyone. The more somber Strawberry Fields essentially stands across Central Park West from the Dakota where John Lennon was shot and killed in 1980. After dinner, we trekked the streets of Midtown Manhattan. For day two, our schedule was quite ambitious, and we started with a trip to Roosevelt Island on the tramway. The tramway travels parallel to the Queensboro Bridge. The ride provides some spectacular views over the East River. A Metro card, or $2.75 each way, is all you need to jump on, and it's the Roosevelt Island Tramway. Roosevelt Island itself lies between Manhattan and Queens and has a lot of open space, including Four Freedoms Park. But I think it's the view back into Manhattan that really makes this island so captivating. Well, we had a lot more to do, and I was jonesing for a slice of pizza, so it was time to head back into Manhattan. Next up was Rockefeller Center. Specifically, we were heading to Top of the Rock. There are no shortages of observation decks here in New York, including some like the Edge or even the Empire State Building. And I wish we had time to do all of them. The panoramic view from the top of the rock over the entire expanse of Manhattan Island, over the Hudson and East Rivers, it surely did not disappoint. Perhaps you can recall seeing a photo from the 1930s that had several construction workers just eating their lunches, sitting carefree, perched on a steel beam suspended about 700 or 800 feet above Fifth Avenue. Well, we jumped at the opportunity to recreate that iconic photo. Next, we made our way to the Museum of Modern Art, or MoMA, and we admired the architecture the entire way. By now, we felt really comfortable getting around on the subway, so we headed to Times Square for dinner. On day three, we got off the train one stop too early. That was fine by me, as we enjoyed a nice walk through Tribeca, making our way to the 9/11 Memorial and to Wall Street. Of course, we couldn't visit New York City and pass on the chance at seeing Lady Liberty herself and touring historical Ellis Island. Visitors can only access Liberty Island and Ellis Island by ferry, and these tours sell out quickly, so book early if you're planning a trip to the Big Apple. From the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, looking out over New York Harbor at Manhattan and Brooklyn, offers some stunning scenery of the New York skyline. I had booked access to the statue's crown, and it is a bit of a climb on a spiral staircase up to the top. And while there's not much room for more than a couple of people up there, the views are simply breathtaking. The Verrazano Narrows Bridge connects Staten Island and Brooklyn. Once you sail under this suspension bridge, that's pretty much it. If you continue straight, you run into New Jersey. If you hang a left, you're out in the open Atlantic. When we arrived back at the Battery Park, we caught the R train to Canal Street and stopped for lunch in Chinatown. We then made our way to the village and into a bustling Washington Square Park. The arch is modeled after the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and it was erected in 1889. I don't know what this group was all about, but before too long, they were all practicing the runway struts. On day 4, well, we said goodbye to New York City and began our journey through the Hudson Valley. Sleepy Hollow is about 30 minutes north of New York City. This colonial Dutch cemetery was central in the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Some of these graves go back to the 1600s. We even stopped and paid our respects at Washington Irving's grave, the author of the spooky short story. The walkway over the Hudson towers 212 feet over the Hudson between Poughkeepsie and Highland. Driving to the Adirondacks took us through some pretty neat places like Saugerties and Kingston. By early evening, we reached our destination, the village of Lake Placid. Lake Placid, the lake, is actually a few miles outside of town, but Mirror Lake, right in the heart of the village, is mesmerizing in its beauty and a hotspot of water sports. The village of Lake Placid is located among the high peaks of the Adirondacks. It also hosted the Winter Olympics twice, once in 1932 and then again in 1980. And if you were around in 1980, you undoubtedly know about the Miracle on Ice and how it became Olympic lore. Very close to Mirror Lake is a fairly easy trail with a moderate incline. Cobble Hill Trail takes you to a plateau overlooking the town and the older Olympic villages. I had been looking forward to spending our 5th day at Au Sable Chasm literally for months. Well, sure, the chasm itself, carved by the roaring flow of the Au Sable River, was certainly spectacular. But it was the adventure trail that made this a can't-miss opportunity.
GoPro is all jacked up.
The adventure trail begins with an actual Via Ferrata. It gets your heart rate up for sure as we crisscross the raging Au Sable River below us on cable and wood plank bridges. I believe there were 4 bridges in all. We climbed and traversed the chasm walls and really had a really nice bird's eye view of the chasm and river for maybe an hour and a half or so.
You did it.
Once we survive the Via Ferrata, the adventure trail winds down in comparison and concludes by rafting through the chasm itself. This is the narrowest point of the chasm, but also its deepest, and the river can get up to 150 feet deep right here.
110 feet over our heads off the water level right here. And in 2011, when that hurricane blew through, the water level gets 20 feet from the bottom of that bridge.
Okay, so the Via Ferrata is challenging, and certainly not for the faint of heart, but it's not as radical as what you'll find in places like Ouray or Telluride in Colorado. Our day at Au Sable Chasm was incredible, and to be honest, it was probably the highlight of this entire trip for me. Our final day started at Whiteface Mountain, one of the Adirondacks' high peaks. It's an easy drive to the top, and you can reach the summit via a short trail or by elevator at the end of this tunnel. The trail was closed today.
Smile. At least it's not windy.
Back in town, we visited the Olympic Museum. In 1980, there was still a Berlin Wall. The Cold War was still a thing. So when the U.S. men's hockey team defeated the heavily favored Soviet team, well, many called it a miracle. Next was the ski high jump facility, 128 meters high to be exact. It takes a gondola and then an elevator ride to reach the very top of the platform. And this afternoon, we were oh so lucky and got to watch future Olympians practice. And that is how we're going to wrap this video up today. Thanks for watching.